There's one thing in life that you have to control the most, and that is control your own thoughts. Rene Girard talks about this in his mimetic theory. Monkey see, monkey do. Most human beings are reacting to other human beings. They never pause and take in the proper data and information to come to their own conclusion. And it's up to you not to be the fucking puppet. You know, you don't want to be controlled by the puppet master. Who is the puppet master? Well, people like to go into conspiracies and they like to talk about the boogeyman. In reality, in reality, the puppet master is two things. The puppet master is the algorithms. I think the algorithms are one of the most nefarious things to look at. Now, it's a tool, it's a software, it's machine learning. And it's not good or bad. At the end of the day, like any tool, it's how you use it. How people say, "Oh, guns are evil." Guns aren't evil. People are evil. And so it's about training ourselves to understand these algorithms. Look what's happening today with woke culture, with social justice warriors, with all these people who are fucking offended. Everybody is offended. Everybody is hurt. Everybody's hiding underneath the rock, or the, how they call it, the ostrich syndrome. They put their head in the sand. And you are being manipulated. You are being controlled by these algorithms. Now, this applies to everything. This applies to red pill philosophy. This applies to blue pill philosophy, purple, orange, green, whatever the fuck you want to label it. You need to really pause and reflect on what you're consuming. And at the end of the day, is this your real original thoughts? Or are you just being triggered? Viktor Frankl talks about this in one of the most famous books, and I think this book should be on your reading list. I read this book every single quarter. I listen to it because the narrator is fantastic, is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl states in that book, when he was in Auschwitz, they took away his family. And what I mean by took away, they killed his family. They put him in the camp for 4 years. And the one thing they couldn't take away from him was his reaction to the situation. That buffer, he calls it. He's the one that controlled that. And so you see this happening today online. It's going to get worse and worse. You know, you're on social media, somebody says a certain thing, or you're reading an article that you may not like, and you get triggered. What does that tell you about yourself? How does that reflect the characteristic traits of you? How does that make you look, right? When you're just reacting as opposed to responding. I made a video a while ago. I'll leave a link below this video for that, talking about rational thinking. Christopher DiCarlo, which I've had on my show twice, one of the most brilliant human beings I met, highly recommend you check out his stuff. He has a famous framework when it comes to critical thinking. The framework is A, B, C, D, E, F. A, and we'll go through it over quickly because you don't want to be the fucking puppet. Like, it's so interesting when I see human beings online bickering and arguing, and it goes by the ideology, because when you're arguing against somebody and when you're threatening them with ad hominems and you are verbally attacking them, whether it's physically, verbally in person, or online keyboard warriors, it's not you that is speaking. You know, Jordan Peterson mentioned this in an interview. It is the ideology talking. When you are controlled as a puppet and you are just in this autopilot react mode, it is not you as a human being. It is more or less the ideology brainwashing you as software. You know, we are computers, and is the ideology representing you. In this case, I'll use me as an example. Let's say I go on this tangent and I'm going fucking crazy. It's not Ameer, the human being, the true nature of myself. It's my ideology that is speaking. And this is fucking dangerous. This is why we have ideological warfare in the world. You have religions arguing against each other. Now you have, political ideology, social class ideology. And it's really important for you to pause and reflect, as when you are in an argument with somebody. I don't like even the word argument. I like to, let's call it communication, because argument has a negative connotation. When you are in a communication with somebody, you need to really figure out, are you coming from the ideological standpoint, and is he or she coming from ideological standpoint? And so I'm going back to Christopher DiCarlo's framework, which is the A, B, C, D, E, F. Let's go through this. So, okay. A is for argument. So not to be a fucking puppet, okay? Please pay fucking attention. Like, this is so important. This applies to everything in your life. I mean, fucking everything, man. You know, fuck, I don't even need this. Literally fucking everything in your life. Whether you are in a relationship or in business, or you're trying to analyze new data, because right now pretty much is a bipolar type of data you're getting. You're getting data online from point A, point B, but that's not the truth. The truth is there's a million different degrees of truth. You know, context matters. So A is for argument. And Christopher likes to state is like, let's first understand what your argument is, what is the principles of your argument, and what is the principles of their argument. Most people are just screaming and fucking bickering, and we don't even know where they're coming from. I've had conversations with people, and I've just paused and asked them, like, I'll interrupt. I told them, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I have no idea. You're just rambling. Like, I didn't know your point of view. I don't know your argument. I don't know your principles. I don't know your policies. I don't know nothing. You're just going off like a religious zealot, which is the ideology. Once again, it's a software talking through them. They've been programmed not to think for themselves. So A is for argument. Figure out what that is. This applies to you and the party that you are communicating with. B is for bias. We all have biases. It's innately human. It's natural. And there's so many to go through, and there's amazing books you can read on biases. You know, Charlie Munger goes through this. Like, just Google biases. Like, there's so many. But at the end of the day, you want to understand what is the biases of the context of that situation, which is C. So A, B is bias, C is context. So biases are determined by the context of that situation. The biases could be very simple, where it's like, what is this person's religion to begin with? Where does this person live? You know, where is the social economic class of this person? Where is this person getting information from? So once you gather these biases, you can then understand the lens of where that information is coming from the individual. And this applies to anything. So whether you're reading a social media post, or whether you're reading anything, a newspaper article, the author has fucking biases. The paper has biases. So take it with a grain of salt. It's not the truth. There's just no fucking truth. Like, when people read, you know, David Ogilvy, one of the best marketers of all time, states, spend 95% of your time on the headline and 5% on the body, right? So people just read the fucking headline and like, oh, that's the fucking absolute truth. No, this is demented. Like, this is the society we live in. We're living in people that they don't study, they don't take deep dives, they don't do deep work, as Cal Newport talks about. They just read the motherfucking headline. It's like, oh yeah, well, Trump is bad, Trump is good, or like whatever, red pill bad, blue, whatever the fuck it is, man. I really don't care. But they just read this headline and they get brainwashed because they don't want to take the time to investigate what the fuck is really going on, right? So B, bias, and C is the context of the situation. D is for diagramming. I love D. D is probably one of the most important things. You could take a piece of paper and then diagram exactly what's happening. And how Chris has it, he has it as a house, right? So the foundation is the arguments, right? A, what's the policies? What's the principles of where this information is coming from, right? Then the house, or let's say the walls, is a premise. What's the premise behind this, right? And then the roof can be the conclusion. Like, what evidence are they giving towards us that might be able to sway my opinion based on the new knowledge that I developed? And it's pretty cool. You can just draw out the house and fill in the blanks. So that's D, diagramming. Then E is for evidence. Collect evidence. Like, do your due diligence. You know, my wife's a doctor. I've been studying science and health for a very long time. And it's hilarious when I see motherfuckers on YouTube or everywhere bitching about vegan this, paleo that, carnivore this. Who gives, honestly, I tell people this, I don't give a flying fuck if you eat cardboard. I really don't care. There is scientific peer-reviewed literature, and like anything in life, politics involved, and, you know, not all science is created equally. Let me put it that way. But, you know, simple things that you can do is you can work on yourself. Like, using the health space as an example is like, instead of you just listening to somebody saying eat vegan or eat carnivore or whatever the fuck it is, do blood work. You know, go get some good practitioners, you know, go do the Dutch test, go do some, you know, high C-reactive protein testing, go test your testosterone through I think Dutch test is one of the best tests for that. It's a full hormonal panel. You can do organic acid testing and see how your mitochondria work. There's a whole gamut of different testing you can find through really good endocrinologists, functional medicine doctors, naturopathic doctors, you name it. You know, it depends on where you are. And if you're in the United States, even luckier because there's a million fucking private labs you can do this from, right? And then figure out what works for you. Figure out what diet works for you. Figure out what lifestyle works for you. And who gives a fuck if someone tells you vegan? You know, you can do vegan and you do, you start tracking all your markers and you realize, well, the evidence is staring me right in the motherfucking face and saying, well, dude, this shit's not for you. Then you, like a good scientist, like somebody who's investigating the truth, you keep on digging, right? So E is for evidence. F is for framing, right? So that's the last one. What is the frame of all this? You know, how do we frame this in the global aspect? So when people are communicating, right? At the end of the day, we like to narrow in on a very small subset of the bigger of a bigger story, right? So in this case, we might be talking, and I'll bring it back to this because it makes perfect sense. It's a great analogy and an example. When people are talking about which diet is the best, diet is a small portion of the pie of health. Okay, right? You can have the best diet in the world, but if your sleep is shit, you're not working out, you're not controlling your stress, you're not loving yourself, you're not having proper circadian rhythm, like you fucking name it, right? That diet's gonna move the needle just a little bit. So you have to frame it from a bigger aspect. What is a whole story? What is a full formula for this? This applies to politics, this applies to creating a business, this applies to the relationship, this applies to everything. So let's repeat that. That's the A, B, D, E, F. And the moral of this video, guys, I just want to get this out there towards you is this. Don't be a fucking puppet. Like, stop reacting to things in your life. Stop reacting to social media. Stop reacting to whatever you may be reacting in your life. If you are reacting, you're not thinking. If you're reacting, you are not productive. You are a puppet. You are basically an ideology. And do you want to be an ideology? I don't think so. Nobody wants to be an ideology. Nobody wants to be just a number. And in reality, that's what you are. You're a number. You're a schmuck. There's a famous KGB or ex-KGB from USSR that came here. I forget his name, but he called it useful idiot. When people are bickering online about whatever the fuck they're bickering about, they are useful idiots. People who want to change and do what they want to do, they don't bicker. They go out there and do it. You know, there's a saying, democracy does not change the course of history, is the will of the few. There are a few individuals, they'll just go out there and do the work. Whether that means building $1 billion business, being the best shape of your life, being the best UFC fighter, being the best partner possible, whatever the fuck it is. They don't ask questions. They don't wait for approval. They're not spending their time bickering and complaining. They're putting their head down and doing the fucking work. So don't be a puppet. Be smart in that. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, leave a fucking comment below, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.